Look at all these leaves. What are we gonna do with them? I know. Let's ask my dad.
Thank you for the question, sweetie. You know, after all the beautiful color changes in the leaves that we have in early fall, we are now left with all of this. All the beautiful leaves fall off the tree, and we're left with an abundance of brown leaves. So what do we do with it? Let's talk about it. First, we can rake the leaves. We'll rake them up, put them in bags, put them on the curbside, and then the garbage truck will come and take it. And you'll take all that nutrient-rich leaf to the dump. And that's such a waste. All that nutrient-rich leaves will be taken to the dump and be thrown away. So let's talk about how we can actually use the leaves in the garden. The second thing we can do is just leave the leaves. And we know there's a campaign going on right now about leaving the leaves. We leave the leaves in place, but that's only good if you live out in the country or you have a large plot of land so you can just leave the leaves. Well, if you're like me and you live in an HOA, leaving the leaves in the front yard would not go over very well. So in the front yard, that may not be an option for me, but I could always try that in the back and on my hill garden. But if a leaf fall off, I just leave them in place to decay, be mulch for the plants, and of course, later on, break down to provide nutrients for the plants. Next, we can just mow the leaves. We can just mow the leaves and leave them in place, which would put back nutrients in the soil as it slowly decomposes. Or we can use a catchment bag and use a chopped up leaf to make leaf mold. Here I'm using a catchment bag to collect all the leaves. Here you can see I've collected finely chopped up leaves, which I can now put in a storage bag. To make leaf mold, we'll put the leaves in a dark colored bag, black or dark blue. And we put the leaves that we chopped up in the lawnmower in our bag. Of course, you could always use leaves that are not chopped up, but they will break down faster when they're chopped up. So once we do that, we're going to take this leaf in the bag and we're going to add some water to it. Leaf mold is a process of breaking down the leaves or causing the leaves to decay by the use of fungus. So once we have our leaves in our plastic bag, we'll water it. So we'll make sure that it's well watered, everywhere is wet. And then we tie our bag. You secure it any way you can. We'll just tie it just like this. Now once we know that our leaves got enough water, we're going to punch holes in the bag. So I just use my nifty screwdriver here and we're going to punch holes in the bag. Punching holes in the bag will cause good circulation of air. So the air can circulate and then the water won't just be sitting in the bag, but the water can flow out. We don't want the leaves to be sitting in water. We just need it to be moist to provide a way for the fungus to get on to the leaves. So we have the holes in our leaf. The water is flowing out. Next, we're just going to put that in an area which we won't disturb it. So we're just going to put it in an area. For me, I'm just going to put it behind the compost bin, and we'll leave it there for about 6 months. Leaf mold can be a very slow process. However, fine leaves like birch and dogwood can break down over winter, where thick leaves like your oak or magnolia may take about 12 to 18 months to break down. After about 6 months, we want to flip our bag, just like that. Just flip it over. That will mix all the leaf mold in there, plus whatever was at the bottom will now be at the top, receiving that sunlight, and whatever was at the top will now be at the bottom. Then in about a year, because we have both thick leaf and fine leaves in our bag, in about a year we can check it, and the leaf mold will look pretty much like compost. It will be very fine chopped up leaves. Leaf mold is the same thing we have like in the forest. When the leaves fall off the trees and you have that nice soft spongy cushion, so when you walk it feels spongy. That's what we have. That's leaf mold natural out there in the forest. Leaf mold can act as a sponge, holding about 300 to 500% of its weight in water. So it's very good to keep leaf mold in your garden. Here is where I leave my leaves in place, which would be good for like my backyard. This tree we have here, once all the leaves fall off, as it is now, this round pollinator's garden, I just leave the leaves right in place. So they just stay there and decay in place. I will just give it a little help by some of the leaves that are around. I just rake it and toss it in. Just rake and toss in. Now, if you have a blower, you could also use a blower. That will do the job even in a much quicker way. So we just rake the leaves or blow the leaves inside the garden, and we'll just leave it. So there is our first way. We'll just leave the leaves. Next, we can use the leaves as a mulch. When you're using the leaves as a mulch, we want to first make sure we help the leaves by breaking it down a bit. So what I did was I used the bag on the mower and I just mow the leaves. So we have it chopped up, shredded leaf. So all I'll do now is just sprinkle that leaf around the garden. Now, it has the same effect on the garden as leaving the leaves, just with the added bonus of helping the leaves to decay faster by breaking it down, by chopping it so it can break down much easier. So we'll just use the leaf as a mulch. Now the advantages of leaving the leaves in place or using the leaves as a mulch is that little insects can hide in the leaves through the year. You have little insects hiding in the leaves, all winter long. You can have earthworm working in the leaves, underneath the leaves, breaking it down. And come spring, when all these insects come back up on the surface, that will provide food for the birds in early spring. When you leave the leaves or you use it as a mulch, the mulch also suppresses weed growth and also provide insulation for the plants. So the roots in the winter time will be insulated, keeping it nice and warm. Also know that the average plant stores about 80% of its nutrients in the leaves. So when we use the leaves in the garden, we're actually reintroducing all that nutrients back into the soil so that new plant can use it. Next, we can use the leaves in our compost. So I have my compost bin right here next to my garbage receptacle. And the leaves that we already shredded, we can just put that in our compost bin. And that will help to break down the leaves much faster. So instead of a whole leaf, we have a shredded leaf, so you can break it down much faster. Compost is very beneficial in the garden. So whatever your means of compost is, and I have a receptacle here, but if it's yours, it's like a bin outside or a wire receptacle, or if you just leave it on the ground and turn it over, please compost your leaves and your spring plant will thank you. Another way of using the leaves in the garden is using the leaves to stuff in your scarecrow or other figures that you have in your yard. And we know it's fall, so for harvest things, we can use that to stuff it. Now, if you're very artsy, which I'm not, you could make like leaf wreath. You can use the different color leaves and make a wreath from that. But then you'd have to secure that beforehand, before the leaves are brown. So you'll dry those colored leaves, preserve them, and use them to make wreath. So we just discussed ways in which we can use leaves in the garden, taking advantage of a nutrient-rich resource. So the ways we talk about of using leaves in the garden is to rake them up, put them in the trash, and throw them away. But that's the one we don't want you to do. And if you're doing that, we want you to stop doing that and utilize the leaves in a more beneficial way. So the beneficial way is leaving the leaves. Leave the leaves. We can use the leaves as a mulch, as a compost. We can make leaf mold, or we can use the leaves to stuff our fall figures that we have in the garden. And if you're very artsy, then you can make a leaf wreath. You like this video, guys? Please give it a thumbs up. Questions, comment, just drop a line down below. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified when new videos are released. From my garden to yours, this is Webster from My Therapy Garden, where playing the dirt helped me take away the hurt. Have a great day, guys, and find new ways of using the leaves in the garden. Bye for now. God bless you. Thanks for your support.